a tribe in our own country. So he is not around, but it's a Nigeria full-fledged, and it's away, and he's going to tell us some experiences over there. And I'm sure the Igbos are going to flood this place today because it is an Igbo affair. But then it's a Nigerian affair because Igbos are Nigerian. So we are really excited, and we know that we are going to learn a lot and have a very smooth session by God's grace. So without wasting time, let me introduce our speaker for today. Our speaker for today is Reverend Father Dr. Simon Okonkwo Areji, a priest of the Catholic Diocese of Nsukka, Enugu State of Nigeria. He was ordained on the 7th of July, 2007. He has served as a formator in Catholic seminaries in Nigeria. He was the Dean of Studies and Vice Rector at St. John Cross Seminary, Nsukka, from 2007 to 2012. He was admitted into the John Paul II Pontifical Theological Institute for the Science of Marriage and Family at the St. John Lateran University, Vatican City, between 2012 to 2014, where he obtained a licentiate in theology, specializing in the science of marriage and family. On his return to Nigeria, he became a formator and lecturer at the Bigard Memorial Seminary, Enugu, where he taught pastoral theology and the Catholic social teachings from 2014 to 2017. He returned to Rome in 2017 and bagged a doctoral degree in theology in the John Paul II Pontifical Theological Institute for the Science of Marriage and Family at the St. John Lateran University, Vatican City, specializing on the theology and science of marriage and family. He currently serves as an associate pastor of the Church of Immaculate Conception, Grassetello, in the Diocese of Prato, Italy. Reverend Father Simon Okonkwo Areji has many articles in both national and international journals to his credit. Today, he's going to speak to us about migration, family values, and continuity, a study of Igbo diaspora in Italy. You can see that we have somebody who can tell us about family, because all his studies based on family. We have somebody who can tell us about family, and we are going to hear about family from both experience and from the religious perspective, because he's a priest. So we want to really sit back and enjoy his presentation. So Father, you are most welcome, and I'll say over to you now to make your presentation, but I'm not going to give you the permit to share your slides. So I will make you a co-host.
It's my pleasure being with you and handling a topic I'm very passionate about. I thank Dr. Aneto for this singular privilege of letting me encounter you people in this forum. I also thank all those who are joined us from different parts of the world, my friends, and then those university staff and all around. Today, as you already said, we are talking of migration, family values, and continuity, a study of Igbo diaspora in Italy. I hope you can get me right?
Yes.
Okay. So by way of introduction, I will begin with a brief story of an Igbo Nigerian who happens to migrate to US and got a boy who, as of the time of this story I'm narrating, was like 9 years. So the young man came in, and this person from Nigeria used to have a lot of priest friends. And some priests who were holidaying in America happened to have visited this man's home. And this man is an Igbo to the core. So when this young man came in from maybe school or outing, he saw more than 6 persons in their house. and greeted them with the normal slogan, "Hi guys." And the father was so sad and mad and said, "What do you mean by hi guys? You don't do that, they are priests." The young man repeated again, "High priest." So the father became even more annoyed. Say, that is not how you greet the priests. Now you can see a cultural conflict between what the young man has known and what the father expects of him. Then, evaluating it, you will discover that there is a lacuna somewhere, that maybe the American lifestyle took over what the father expected of him. To that, we now go into what we want to discuss today. By way of introduction, we all know the popular British anthropologist, cultural anthropologist, Taylor, who defines culture as a complex whole, which includes beliefs, arts, morals, law, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by a human being as a member of the society. One would say that he was greatly influenced by Charles Darwin, whose evolutionary principles and theory talks about human beings evolving in different forms. And upon this evolution, there is also constant diffusion. And that is why it is possible to still get somebody who is black, or to still get somebody who has a trace of a culture that is not even living in the place or something else. So, Igbo people, as we all know, according to Biti, they are fanatical about culture and tradition. So that being the case, that is why in countries like where I am, we notice that they used to have Igbo cultural festivities here, including the masquerade, because the Igbo is known to always be taking his culture wherever he's going. And not just the Igbos, but other Africans also do the same. Now, the depth of the Igbo cultural heritage will be better appreciated if we look at the overwhelming influence the family has on an average Igbo man. That the Igbo man is not alone. The family plays a serious role. Now, what we want to confront in this presentation is, with this rate of migration from one country to another, there are certain Igbo values that, of course, that either watered down or even taken away entirely because of these cross-cultural influences. So we'll be talking about a few terms to help us discuss very well our topic. We'll talk about migration. After migration, we'll be talking about the concept, what Igbo family, what family means for the Igbos, and then their values. Then we try to look at Igbos in diaspora, and then how they are faring with these values, which we are going to enumerate. Migration, the density or scarcity of a population in a given place is determined by three causes, according to anthropologists. There is the birth rate, which they call fertility. There's the death rate, which they call mortality. And then there is the third one, which is migration. Whereas the two first causes are biological, the third one could be caused by so many things, especially political factors, economic factors, wars, and other things, which destabilize the human habitation. It may also be in search of a greener pasture. So migration is one that is so immediate on the population of a people that, whereas the other one is gradual, migration could be so spontaneous and can reduce a population of 100 million to less than 50 million within a given space of time. Who is down when we talk about migration? John Paul II also, our Pope, who is known as the Pope of the family, talks about migration as being driven by what we call refugee status, which you have now in almost main part of the Western world, quest to study abroad, Some are on exile due to political reasons, and then generally for the improvement of life conditions. Migration can also be international, that within the nation, or it can go international. Within the nation, one can migrate from Nsukka, where I'm coming from, to live in Lagos, in Abuja, in Benin, or in other part of Nigeria. We call it international because within a nation. Then there's international migration, whereby one leaves a particular country to another country. So from the topic of our discussion, you would understand that we are talking about international migration here. But before going into that, for the sake of those who are not Nigerians or who are not at home with the Igbos, it may be necessary to say, who are these Igbo people and what are their culture? Today, the Igbos are found in the southeastern states of Nigeria, the states of Ebonyi, Enugu, Abia, Imo, and Anambra. But not just within these states. We still find Igbos in adjoining states like the Delta, the Rivers, the Akwa Ibom, the Kogi, the Benue areas. We still have found the Igbos there. This was due to state creation. Some parts were ceded to other places. Now, as I said earlier, the Igbos could be described as Igbo-speaking people, or those of Igbo culture, or Igbo as a nation which means a heritage of a group of people. And one characteristic of the Igbos is that the people say, that means that the Igbos do not have king. It's also one of the things I would like to argue, or briefly, that the concept of king for the Igbo is different from what other people think about a king. For the Igbo man, the Igbo has so many kings. The Igbo man respects his elders. He respects those whom the people hold in high esteem. So the Igbo man he doesn't worship a human being, but he respects a human being very well. Because he respects a human being very well, it does not mean that this same human being can become his God. So he cannot worship a human being, and that's why they say Igbos are Igbo that do not have kings. They are republican in nature. Republican in nature is that in any part of the world, people used to say, any part of you go and you don't see an Igbo man, you should live there. Not just that they are in any part of the world, but they make their marks in that every part of the world which they found themselves. They cherish their values, and then they have strong attachment to their homes, to their roots. One can see it in so many ways, whereby even in America, even in Europe, they celebrate something like Lineage, that is a New Yam Festival, and other ceremonies, just to show that notwithstanding that we're outside our area, we are still part and parcel of this place, which means they still go on to those countries with their cultures intact. So to be an Igbo man is to be identified with the tradition of the people. And they have a communal life and sense of commensality which they live to the full. To be ostracized from the Umunna kingship in Igbo land means that the person is almost regarded as being dead. So within this group, within this organizational structure, we have the family, which is not what we regard today as a nuclear family. The Igbo family concept of the family goes beyond what we call the family today, of father, mother, and their children. The real Igbo concept of the family transcends that. It goes to generations. And that is why most of the time there is a sort of misuse in nomenclature, kingship and family, because most of the time the Igbos, they found themselves, their kingship, they regard them as one family. And that is why in most Igbo areas, marriage within the same family is not even talked about, that is within the same kingship. In some places, due to some legends or myths that connect them together, It is also possible that some villages, because they are connected with this type of story, they cannot intermarry or they cannot go into war with one another. So the basic Igbo family structures enables the Igbo man to be integrated within this relational structure of the family that goes out to the extended family. From extended family, it goes to the village, from the village to the community at large. So the concept that Igbo also, which I said earlier, was not entirely because we don't come together, that we are ruled within the Omunna, that is the kingship clan. That is, when we come together as a community, it is the contributive efforts of the various Omunna that form a community. A community can be dissolved at any time and people go their different ways in Igbo land. But the Omunna remains there and nobody leaves the Omunna. So after seeing the family structures of the Igbo, what are then those values which the Igbos hold in esteem that we are going to discuss? We would like to make it very brief because the Igbos have a lot of values, they have a lot of virtues, they have so many things attached to their tradition. But we are just going to look at 3 of those values. One of my friends who just published a work on the Beyond the Scrapyard, an ethnology of Igbo migrants in Germany, Father Tadeu Seze, talked much about these values. And within this his work, I tried to pick 3 of those values. One of those values is what we call mutual dependence. The second one is lineage continuity. Then the third one is valorization of personal achievements. Now, as I've said earlier, the Igbo man believes that life is a continuum, that I cannot be and my brother is not there, that we are together. So let's just look briefly on these values and see what they portend for the Igbo man. The first one we are going to discuss is the value of lineage continuity. What does this mean for the Igbo man? Life among the Igbos is a continuum. It is through birth, which is from marriage to adulthood, and after death to ancestorship. For instance, when we look at one of the works of Chinua Achebe, The Things Fall Apart, there was just an extract there that brings out my intent, what I want to say on this. Achebe says that Okonkwo felt a cold shoulder run through him at the terrible prospect, like the prospect of alienation. He saw himself and his fathers crowding around the ancestral shrine in vain for worship and sacrifice, and finding nothing but ashes of bygone days. That was Achebe describing Okonkwo. When Okonkwo, the white man, came to their place and he felt the first son, Moye, has decided to join the white man's religion. So for the Igbo man, life is a continuum. And the Igbo man works hard, not just for himself, but for the continuity of this family. So the continuity gives credence to some of the names we have in Igbo land. Like some people are called Ahamefuna, so that my name will remain. Some people are called Obodechina, my clan will not come to an end. Some people are called, what is it? Some people are just such names, I can't remember some of them now, but such names that keeps one on the notice that life is a continuum. I have a reason to beget another person who will in turn beget another person, and the continuity goes on. Now, in the family, this lineage continuity contributes to so many things. Number one, The parents are to love their children. We see that in the prayers in the olden days, when we still have majority of African traditional religion, that once a man picks the kola nuts every morning, he talks about God's protection upon his family. He prays for children. It also accounts for why polygamy was laudable in Igbo culture, because they believe we need to be numerous so as to conquer the enemy. In those days, we have tribal, intertribal wars. Populous communities are respected, not necessarily because they are rich, but because they have warriors. And because they have many people for war, people try to respect them. Now, there is also another aspect within this lineage continuity, which is marriage. Marriage, not just marriage, marriage with children. For the Igbo man in the pre-Christian era, and unfortunately even now, marriage without children is considered as a loss. It's considered as a misfortune. And every day, those who are involved in this, they are in agony because it is reminded of them. In every place they are gathered, be it where women are, the woman who appears not to have had children is always mocked, and she is not always the happy type. And that's why today, some avaricious pastors are taking advantage of some women in such situations, and they are making them pay, even with their blood, promising them to help them get children. And most of the time, at times, it will not work. So, because the Igbo has attachment to continuity. Marriage is not just marrying, but there are times a man will reach in Igbo land and is not yet married. And people will continue to, in fact, they can even go to the diviners that is getting out of hand. And because of that, there's age limit for marriage in Igbo land, except that because of the harsh economic situations and instability in the total scheme of things, whereby a student will go to school and will be graduating at 28 or 29, when he entered or she entered around 23 or 24, because of strike actions, because of so many things that hinder education in our country. Again, after studies, the person is supposed to fend for himself before he marries. And gradually the years are increasing before people could get married. Before, once a man is able to till the soil, plant his own crops, build a small hut for himself, he is good to go. So that Okonkwo, when the things fall apart, if we use him as a paradigm, as a young man, they said he already had 3 wives and so many children, which means he was one of those who were prosperous in their own rating and ranking because he married early. So late marriage is not a wonderful blessing among the Igbos. It's seen as sometimes unfortunate that he could not marry. That's why people could even take the risk of running to a man. Some girls can run to a man because they find themselves disappointed, dejected, and rejected by the society because they are not married. It also accounts for why today some people die in marriages, because not to be married has become a stigma, especially among the Igbos in the pre-Christian era, and unfortunately there are still vestiges of it even in the present circumstance. So within this lineage continuity also, we talk about the religion. Religion is a community, is a family affair among the Igbos. You don't just live the religion of your fathers. Now, it is interesting that when Igbos started being Christians, they carried that religion as a family patrimony from African traditional religion to Christianity. That accounts today that even in Igbo land, we still get families who reject intermarriage of people of different denominations. We still get people who don't marry those who are in one church or the other, or not even Christians and the rest of them, because they fear you are going out of their faith is an indirect way of living out of the family. Just like we have it in the Judaism and in Jewish culture, whereby going out of the culture, marrying outside the confines of your environment and your faith is automatically an excommunication that you are not taking the word of their fathers. Just for the lineage continuity. Then there is the second virtue, which is the mutual dependence. Mutual dependence. This is an interesting aspect of the Igbo land, of the Igbo people, which is also found in some other areas, because the African man naturally will like to help his brothers. He will like him and his brother to live in peace. If one is progressive in Igbo land, he will like to bring others up. Now, this mutual dependence, which you have said in the previous when we talked about the lineage continuity, we also find in this mutual dependence that parents take care of the children. When they are old, the children will reciprocate. They obey them, and even when they die, their respect does not cease with death. They honor them, they pay homage to them. They represent them very well, knowing that they carry the insignia of the family. So that the traditional Igbo cosmology, which confirms this, it sees the family as a unit of three groups with constant mutual interaction of the living dead, and the unborn. So that in Igbo land, the traditional time, if somebody does well, he's likely to come in another form, reincarnation. But somebody who didn't do well is not cherished. And even if they said your child incarnated in that person, you will say no. So in Igbo land, this mutual dependence is a positive value. It is a positive value. And that was why there was this document written by John Paul II, we call it Ecclesia in Africa. I just cite a few sentences from what he said. He talked about Africa, but I'm sure he had a special appellation for the Igbos. He said that in Africa culture and tradition, the role of the family is everywhere held to be fundamental. Open to this sense of the family is the sense of love and respect for life. The African loves children who are joyfully welcomed as gifts to God. And he said the sons and daughters of Africa that they like life. Concluding, he said, they believe intuitively that the dead continue to live and remain in communion with them. And he asked a fundamental question. Is this not in some way a preparation for belief in the communion of the saints? So he was praising the Africans, and the Igbo have a great quantity, a share of it. So even as Christians, as I said, the Igbos treat their religion as a familiar issue, so that you are not just free. Even some of our children now who are Catholics at home, and wherever they are living, they are in for one Pentecostal churches or the other. When they come home, because of fear of the parents, they will always go to the Catholic Church. Some of them want to marry, they will go and marry in the Catholic Church. There was a funny story of somebody who, just to please the parents, went and had a wedding in the Catholic Church in the morning, and went in the evening to have another wedding in another church, because that was, he wants to please the wish both of the parents and then of the husband. So, because the religion forms part of the patrimony of the family in Igbo family values. Now, apart from these dependencies, with the Igbos, they also believe in unity, Igwebike, they answer it in names. In fact, it's the name of my bishop. Igwebike means that together we can succeed. There is a famous statement in Igbo, Ofu osisi ademebe ohia, a tree cannot make a forest. And what's the implication of this? That the Igbo believe that wealth, success, and even failures are shared within the members of the family. We are not just brothers because we are progressing. Even in sorrow, we are still brothers. Even in difficult moments, we are still brothers. So that when you become a rich man in Igbo land, and you are not generous to your brothers and your sisters and those around you, you are already in trouble. So your richness is not for yourself alone. It is for the generality of your people. So the Igbo man believes that I am because we are, and we are because I am, and I'm supporting the group positively. This takes us to the third value, valorization of personal achievement. In Igbo, there is an adage which says, "Nwata kwọcha aka, osoro okenye rie ife." That when a child watches his son very well, he can now dine with the elders. What does that mean? The Igbos cherish very well flexible and accommodating rewards for personal achievement and industry. In the same Okonkwo, the same Achebe which I used earlier, Okonkwo seems to have broken the jinx from his father, Unoka, who happens to be who didn't do well. And Okonkwo broke the jinx and was rated to have achieved from nothing to greatness. So they value this personal achievement. Even today, the Igbo still value it. In fact, in Igbo land, somebody who is doing well, they used to call him one Amurora. He belongs to all. But when somebody is an Efulef is somebody who is not doing well, everybody will despise the person. In most cases, it is only the mother who stands by such person. The rest will always despise the person. So, however, in this valorization of personal achievement, there is something very fundamental about the Igbos. The Igbos is a race of, they have much morals, and they believe in karma. They believe that whatever bad you do will eventually come back to you. That is why in Igbo, they talk about Ezia Fakego, good name is better than wealth and riches. While they appreciate somebody who is doing well, while they appreciate somebody who is progressing, while they appreciate somebody who is rich, there is always a clause to it. It must be through genuine means. If the family, if they look at you and your wealth is questionable, they might be tempted to leave you and your wealth. And it's happening where there is immorality. But I'm sure today, with the events in our country, in Igbo land, and in every part of Africa, whether we have entered what Friedrich Nietzsche calls devaluation of values, I don't know. But today, people are no longer worried about this. Well, just a story that is personal to me. In my family, my eldest brother, around 1980, was living in Lagos, and he bought a Nissan or van. That was then, around June 1980. So when he came home, very happy with the car, to the greatest amazement of everybody, my mother started shouting and said, maybe the young man must have gone to have stolen the car or something like that. And was shouting, people gathered together. And those who came back with him started giving evidences that the young man was responsible for that wealth before my mother started rejoicing of that. Today in Igbo land, it's unfortunate that even university students now buy clothes for their mothers, and they take it and they rejoice that God has blessed us. University students now buy cars for their parents, and their parents, they will not ask them, where is it coming from? But tomorrow, when they hear that they have been shot dead or something happened to them, they will look for an enemy. And some of us pastors will help them to fashion a good story of that hidden enemy somewhere who must have influenced such type of action. It is a value we are missing in Igbo land, which is very unfortunate. So let's just rest here for now about Igbo values and then look at Italy, where we are talking about. That's the point of our departure. The position of Italy, as we all know, is within the southern Europe, and it is bordered to so many places, but what concerns our study is the Mediterranean Sea. Above in the chart, you will see the number of immigrants that arrived by sea in Italy from 2014 to 2021. So among in every country, even in Nigeria, there were legal and illegal immigrants. But in a country, you have this number of illegal immigrants when legal migrants are just very few. You can imagine the situation there. So their confusion begins with entry, because so many of them, for them to come into what they go through, only God knows. Sometimes in 2013 in Lampedusa, there was a shipwreck that took thousands of persons. It is a continuous event of our brothers and sisters who are trying to come into Italy from various parts of Africa and Nigeria and Igbo land. Italy as a country has 20 major regions. The chart explains the number of migrants who come to Italy. And then the Igbo's diaspora in Italy, we see them in the various situations. So when they come in, the three major factors they confront, as I've said, the route to exist for migrate Africa. They see Italy as a migrating route, a place they can, an exit route from Africa and other countries. And because of that, it has a lot of consequences on the way they live and the way they go on with their life. The first one is that, how did I come to know these people, the Igbos, and how did I have an idea of what they are? The Igbos in Italy I came to know about them in two ways. Number one, we have the group who are legally migrated, mostly some who are going for genuine missions and other things. And we have others who came in through the sea. But I am not interested in how they came in or how, but in my contact with them and why I am saying that migration is not helping matters as far as those values I have enunciated are concerned. This is in Italy, we have two major groups which I have visited. Number one is the group called Zwanne, which I am a member. It comprises of all the religious that are studying in Italy. This is where it started after the war, where they came together. After the war, they came together and then started living together, helping themselves, encouraging themselves from the situation. Then the ones you saw earlier are lay persons who are living in Italy, who have what they call Anglophone communities. These Anglophone communities is just called Anglophone, but majorly it is Nigeria community. And when you go to those communities, you discover that the Igbos are always on the majority. Other tribes are there, but they are found majorly in Pentecostal churches, and they are joining religions. Some of them must have chosen. But then, what dislocates somebody or disorientates somebody as soon as you enter Italy, I will just summarize with two stories. Number one is language. Before you entering Italy is one of the confusions. There was a priest who came to study in Italy, and every Christmas we had to go for to help in the parish and improve our language. This young man prepared his homily very well. And when he came to deliver it, he discovered it was windy. It was an open air mass, so to say. It was windy, and the wind took away the script he has prepared. And he could not say anything again because he doesn't know what to say except reading out those things. So the language is a shock. So most of the priests and religious are fortunate because they have 3 months of language course, whereas the rest do not. Most of them will just come in, they will enter the orientation camp or the refugee camp and whatever, and so it continues. So they are confused both in the language, they are confused both in the tradition, and they are also confused even in attendance to churches, because here, unfortunately, the number in the churches cannot be compared to what you have in our place. Then this chart tells us what we call cultural intolerance parameters. The migrant was natives. When you look at it, you see that Sub-Saharan Africa is the first. When you go down again, this is native towards the migrant. You also discovered that that of Sub-Saharan Africa is the highest, which means we are part of them. What is this explaining to us is that the level of intolerance here is also enough to disorientate somebody. Now, what are those values and continuity? How are they done in Italy? First of all, that of marriage, lineage continuity. It has become problematic because some of them are married before they came to Italy. And the way they came in, some of them will stay more than 9 years, 10 years without visiting home. Some of them have not married. I had a contact with a community that I decided to do some findings, and I discovered that in a community of 200 persons, 120 are not yet married, and one of the youngest among them is 35 years old. And most of them are not married because they don't have their papers. Some of them also marry, and when they marry for the papers. And some of them are tempted to marry those who are even older than their mother, who cannot give birth. So that's the idea of giving birth to children is not even part of the motive for the marriage. Some of them also entangle themselves in the search for papers, entangle themselves with some of these girls, and they are frustrated for life. They count in their 50s and they are not yet married. Some are having 2 homes. One of the parents is here and the other is home with the kids. So the parenting has become, the mothers have become like single mothers when they are married, because some of their men, because of the circumstance of their stay here, cannot even go home till some after 5 years, some 6 years and they more. So that aspect of the Igbo family values is being harmed by immigration. Mutual dependence, they do it very well here. That's what Kano calls transnationalism. The typical Igbo man can go starve here to make sure those at home are enjoying it. And at the end, he suffers it. Some of them will enter into all sorts of life because they cannot come home, because in Igbo land now, to be in Obodo Igbo, in overseas, signifies that that is money. So once you arrive home and you don't have the money, you are then named it to every other person. Finally, the idea of valorization of personal achievement. This idea of checking who is doing well and who is not doing well has led so many of them into lives that are not morally acceptable, because some of them here try to please those at home, even at the expense of their own very life. So at the end, I am saying that the family values in Igbo land is sacrosanct. And be it in traditional religion or in Christianity, the Igbo man tries to maintain his tradition. but migration has affected negatively on some of these values and endangered their continuities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Simon Okonkwo Areji, for that beautiful piece. I think I enjoyed every bit of this discussion, because I think what I'm hearing here is not only happening in Igbo land, but perhaps it's almost a cultural thing in the whole of our country, Nigeria. Now, because of time, I will just allow people to ask their questions, and I can see my former Vice Chancellor with his hand is up, so he's going to take the lead in the question time business. Now you will listen to the questions and note your responses down. I mean, the questions down as well as your responses. So when we finish taking the questions, then you can now respond. So let's hear the first person, Professor Musa. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Reverend Father, for this nice presentation. And I think it is very wonderful that you have given a very, very comprehensive picture of the anthropology of the Igbo people. And I would dare to say that this anthropology that you painted of the Igbo people more or less applies to other ethnicities, whether the Yoruba or the Hausa or the Fulani or something like that. They are all bound by all these facets of valorization, lineage, and so on, community values, and so on. However, what I would have loved really is a microscopic study of an Igbo community in Italy and how they maintain these values. What we have seen so far is that you yourself said migration is not helping matters. So which means that when the Igbo with all these beautiful, wonderful values leave Africa and they migrate to Italy or to other places, all those values are left aside. And these values have nothing to do with money. They have nothing to do with wealth. They have nothing to do with your status. They have to do with your identity, your self-identity. And yet this self-identity seems to be kept aside. They don't want to get married. They cannot afford it, or they want to get married under false circumstances and so on. I would have loved really a fine-tuning of the anthropology of the Igbo in Italy, and whether living in Italy has enabled them to maintain those values, even if they don't want to integrate with the rest of the Italian community because they have not been accepted, which is okay. I mean, the Arabs do that. The Chinese do that. If you go to San Francisco, there's Little China. All over the world, there's Little China, Little China. The Arabs have their own little communities and they maintain their values in those little communities. And I would have loved a case study, your case study. I was expecting it to focus on attention on how the Igbos in Italy were able to maintain their cultural and anthropological identities rather than just simply being scattered like that and so on. So I think the community values that you raise are very critical, but we need to see them in action, and the way in which it comes out as a clear message that out of sight is not out of mind. Just because I've left home, I've left Ebonyi, I've left Anambra, I'm still able, and I maintain those values. Or into a situation where people will say, okay, look, I'm no longer in Igbo land, so I don't have to behave like an Igbo. When you are in Rome, do as the Romans do. So the same hi, or ciao, or whatever it is, values that we find, we have to integrate in order to be accepted in that particular community. So I really would have loved that if you are looking at this paper on a larger scale, to focus more attention on how those values that you explain are realized by the Igbos in Italy and how they're able to survive. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that beautiful contribution. I can see 3 more hands up, and I saw Professor Leron. Her hand was up, but she's gone down. I hope she's still around. So, Professor Akinwale, please.
Thank you very much, Reverend Father Dr. Simon. I like the aspect of values and other aspect of your presentation. Sir, I want to ask, at what point did those values begin to change? Because you told us the traditional values that are highly cherished, and at some point, the values began to nosedive, And from your presentation, it is clear that maybe you said migration made this change in value to be accelerated. So you made it clear that these values have been changing before migration, only that migration made the changes or accelerate the changes in value. So because you made reference to students buying things for their parents, with parents not even asking questions, unlike situation in the traditional setting. So I really want to know if I don't know if you have uncovered the time or the point or circumstances that led to this change. I ask this question because this may help us in finding solution to whether these values can be recovered. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I think the next person is Professor Tijani. I can see the hand up.
Thank you very much, Ma. Let me start by commending the presenter for the audacity to share with us his missionary as well as academic endeavor on this platform. I would like to join the two comments before me by asking simple questions as follows. You told us about the young man and what happened in Italy. Do you blame the young man or the parent? Do you blame the young man or the parent? That is one. You also talked about values. So do you think there's supposed to be a mix? So as I was saying, how do we internalize the specificity of the triadic relationship? You eloquently presented, but I think there's a need to mix your ethnographic and anthropological analysis with a concept that you can validate or invalidate using the Italian experience or the Italy experience. I think you can also broaden your work. You were not given, or there was no time for you to share with us. Perhaps you have. Broaden your work in terms of a comparative analysis. You see, the Igbos are not just majorly in Italy. We have them in Jamaica. We have them in Cote d'Ivoire, even if you don't want to go beyond the continent. The Central African Republic, how have they survived? How have they recreate themselves? What is the double consciousness of an Igbo man? Okay. And then the last but not the least is the concept of Igwe Buike. I hope I'm saying it right. And the Umana. How has this played out in the diaspora, particularly in Italy? Let me round up by giving you a short narrative of what happened, I believe, last weekend here in Baltimore. My daughter was somewhere and we were not home. We requested Dr. Asalu, who is a TEDFON postdoc fellow, to help bring her to the house along with her junior sister and another postdoc daughter. My daughter refused to get into the car. Despite talking to her on the phone, she refused and said, I don't know. He's been to our house. I said, no, I am not going with him. So after many persuasion and he now said, oh, Treasure is going with us. How is she going to go back to our place? And I said, oh, the uncle will take her, but I said, no way. So at the end of the day, it became so, it took us 10 minutes. So you can imagine the kind of value that we're trying to, at least, put on our kids and how they are trying to grapple with what they learn in school, particularly mixing the value of a Yoruba man and their own American way of life. Thank you very much for brilliant sharing of.
Thank you very much, Professor Tijani. Please, Emeritus Professor Sogolo is the next on the line. Professor Emeritus, sir? Yeah, he's still there. He's muted, and I hope he's still there. Okay, while waiting for him to come back, let's not waste time.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am. I want to start by saying BAM. BAM in Igbo means I agree with you. I agree with the presenter because as an Igbo myself, I can relate with everything that he has said here, especially when it has to do with values and identities. But again, I want to take it back to the doorsteps of the host communities. Now, I'm happy we are looking at Italy. Now, the presenter said something about how Igbos value who they are, their identity. Now, you find out that, just like my former Vice Chancellor had said, how would the Igbos in Italy retain their identity? Why are they not feeling like Igbos, even when they are not in an Igbo land? The truth is that, well, that's why I said I'm taking it back to the host communities. There are policies and rules that I think that are not also favorable to those conditions. For an instance, even some of us here home, we have seen pictures, videos of Igbo na China, Igbo na Texas, Igbo in so many other places. But I think you hardly hear anything that has to do with Igbo cultural identities being played out in places like this, Italy. But when you go to other countries, you see, I think the reception, that's the way I'm going to put it now. The reception in these other countries are more cordial than in some places. And that's why I am asking, why is it like that? Not just migration. Nobody is saying that we should discourage migration in any way. But the truth is that these host countries, there are policies in place that I think that had, been a cog in the wheel of these Igbos trying to actually make themselves identified or make themselves known in where they are. And I'm taking it back to the presenter now. What have you done where you are to see that these values did not erode, especially when it has to do with Igbo communities in where you are? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment and the next person, as I'm seeing on my screen, is Professor
I'm available now. I thought
okay,
you called
Prof,
on
okay, sorry, Professor Kwanache, after Professor Emeritus Professor Sogolo, you take the floor. Okay.
Yes, I was just going to say something briefly. First, I want to commend the presenter for the very clear presentation of his paper. In fact, the beginning of the paper where he made reference to the anthropologist Taylor was very, very interesting because Taylor's definition of culture is one of those definitions that we still cherish today. One of the things I wasn't too clear about is this. Culture is very fluid. In other words, modernity has affected culture almost everywhere in all societies. And I don't see the change he's talking about or the effect on culture in Italy, on Igbo culture in Italy, is not that different from the effect on the effect of modernity on culture back home here. Almost in every one of our societies, the trend, new trends, materialism and development and so forth, it's affecting culture, traditional culture. So they're almost the same. The hardship that we face today, the problems of living, day-to-day living, they all affect our traditional cultures. And I just thought that there's so close a similarity between what is happening at home and what is happening in the diaspora, whether Italy or in the US or anywhere. And the author really need to be more specific so that we see the uniqueness of the Italian experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for that contribution. Now, over to you, Professor Helen Kwanashi.
Thank you very much, Director. I would like to congratulate you and the speaker for this very insightful presentation. However, I have comments that relate to some of the earlier ones, particularly by Professor Adamu, with respect to some expectation that I had and which can still be carried out going forward. One feels that a more comprehensive study or several comprehensive studies indeed with empirical data will be more useful for academic communities like ours. For instance, you may want to interrogate social demographics like age, sex, whether the individuals came legally or illegally, and how all of that play with respect to their experiences and any changes that may have occurred or may be occurring as far as family values and culture is concerned. So I would like to suggest to Father and his group and the rest of us and interested that this is something we can take up as a challenge. We need to understand and interrogate the benefits and otherwise of migration from Nigeria, which is a very common thing that all of us have experienced. The executive director suggested, why was this study or why is the report not covering several other places? Of course, that would be nice, but it's not always possible to do that in one presentation. Having said that, Italy is a special situation because it's like a gateway country, not only to other countries in Europe, but even to countries in North America and beyond. And with regards to the host response to immigrants in general and Nigerians in particular, even the picture, the first picture that the presenter showed us of people arriving illegally at the seashore is so overwhelming that I personally can relate to how the Italians feel about immigrants that are coming in illegally. If, as a Nigerian, people are flocking into my country in that huge numbers, I will also be resentful. But I think we need to study these things in a more scientific way. And I believe the results will help us and our responses to migration from our country and indeed into our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you for that beautiful contribution. And I can see here now, is it Dr. Reverend, Father, Professor, I don't know your name, but yeah, Faustinus I.K. Ugwanyi. Am I right? I hope I could pronounce
you are very correct. Thank you very much. I will first begin by really appreciating and thanking the organizers of this program and then the presenter for a beautiful presentation this morning. He really spoke very, very well about the Igbo identity, cultural identity, and values. And then about the mutual dependency of the Igbos and the Igbo culture. My questions are just very, very two, but they are also very similar, simple too. The first one is that the Igbos are always looked upon by other tribes in Nigeria as a tribe that loves money so much and that can go to every extent in making sure that they get this money. And this is really typified in the recent spread of the whole ritual killings and then the whole Yahoo Plus experienced mostly in the southeast of Nigeria, and then also seen in the migration experiences. Now, my question is to the presenter, do you think that something is actually wrong with the Igbo culture? Where actually is this problem coming from? Why is it just peculiar to the Igbos? Is the problem coming from the culture or those cultural values and all this thing about the mutual dependencies and so on? I really want to know where the problem is coming from and why this attitude is displayed more by the Igbos. The second similar question is, do you not also think that this mutual dependency to a very big extent puts a lot of pressure on the Igbos, especially in the diaspora, like in Rome, because most of the migrations do happen in Rome? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I saw Dr. Alero Akujobi's hand sometime. I mean, her hand was up. Doctor, are you still there? Do you want to say something? Just to give you the chance to speak. Okay, since she's not responding, it is assumed that she doesn't want to speak. So I was having listened to these beautiful comments, I just want to say on my own part, I have said earlier that what the speaker of today said is not only limited to or restricted to the Igbos, but when we're not doing comparative analysis, we may say there are more. But other tribes are also very much involved in everything that the speaker has said today. But I want to quickly say, perhaps the Igbos have more societal values for wealth, I don't know, or for doing big things than others. I'm just trying to preempt what the speaker will say to the last speaker. Maybe they, you know, because like the little I see of them here in Nigeria, when you go to Lekki, all the houses in Lekki, 80% are owned by Igbos, and everybody will make sure that it's upstairs they build to match. All our upstairs must meet at that edge, head to head. You know, that kind of, so I don't know, even when you cannot do it, because others have done it, you go to any length to do it. I think, well, mainly what I have observed in Lekki, where I stayed a few years, and I said the Igbos are the ones, all these houses, it's Igbos that own them. And you won't be wrong. When you get there, you see that at least about 80% of those houses in Lekki belong to Igbos. Well, let the priest say, respond to all these beautiful comments that show that this paper was really well put together and people enjoyed it, because so many comments and questions. So Dr. Areji, over to you to round up and tell us what you have to say to every contribution here, just in 10 minutes maximum, so that we can call it a day. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really impressed by these comments and the questions and everything about it. The research is not unscientific, as you may have said, but I decided to, I already told the coordinator that I have a paper which I have already prepared, but I just picked, considering the time, on what we need to give me a hint or on letting you into the scope of my study. So I still have much to say, but the time limitations constrained me. So Professor, the former VC, thank you very much. I did have a microscopic studies, and I have it in my paper, but I am both a research student and then a pastor. There are certain things, if I present it here, it will not sound scientific, but as a pastor, I'm not obliged to bring out some aspects of the details of it, but I will make it in a tabular form in the paper itself. Now, the particularity of those in Italy, I already mentioned the three aspects of it. The particularity of the Igbos in Italy, just like any other ethnic group, is the cultural shock of the language. That cultural shock of the language disorientates every person who comes into this place, even us priests. What is the implication? The implication is that that Igbo man coming in is not free to interact with the natives because he doesn't understand them. And Italian is a closed society that really do they like to speak English, even those who can speak English fluently. They also, I don't know whether it is, I don't know why they would not like to help the strangers in that aspect. When you travel to Germany, an average person can respond to you in English very well. But when you come to Italy, it is very difficult. Even those who studied it will not do that. So it limits the possibilities of these people manifesting what they can. Then number two, these people who come here, that is the Igbos and those who are educated, when they come here, their certificate is not needed because of language barrier. You are a nurse in Nigeria, you come here, you cannot practice. You go to begin secondary school equivalent before you could be trained as a nurse here. So it makes them to resort to what other job? There's what they call charity. Charity is sort of moving around, begging and selling few things. That is what they do, because here, I've been here for more than 7 years. I've not seen a black man who is a policeman in this place. I've not seen a black man who is a bus driver in this place. I've not seen a black man who is even in the post offices. It's only as delivery men they can act to do. So in a society that way, it is difficult. So number one, they are coming together. You know, I said in my presentation that the Igbos, the family setting helps them to stabilize their values. But unfortunately, it is not possible here because of the circumstances. So the problem with those in Italy, in response to Prof, is that those community values are difficult because one person in Igbo land cannot protect the value. You can be a good man. Then the way they came in, they are looking to establish themselves. So they resort to some things which I may not mention, which they take up in life. Very works that are not worth of human dignity. But they do that just to survive. So such a person in that situation will be difficult for him to, because even to be righteous, you need some level of comfort to be righteous. Then, I'm just trying to peruse through to respect the time. The second question asked, at what point does those values began to change? And what is the impact of migration and when and at what point? Yes, those values, 1972, schools were taken away from the churches because then knowledge and morality were put together. Today, you can have your child studying in the best school in the world, or in Nigeria, you are paying what people count now is no longer the morality of the child, but the type of school the person is attending. My child is in Jesuit college, is in this college, they are paying 2 million. Beautiful. Even a well-prepared pig can also be taken to where they pay 10 million. But at the end, what is the person getting out of the place? So when we left parenting to maids and house helps and took up to work and traveling and leaving the homes, was eventually when those things started dwindling. So they are coming outside is just to confirm what they already carried from home. But here makes the matter worse, because at home, the community helped to protect them, but here it is not possible. The story I said at the beginning, the third person asked, whom do I blame? The young man. Yes, the blame is purely on the parents, because for you to be modern, especially Igbo parents, is that your child do not understand Igbo language. That is when you are respected, that you are doing well. You come home for the Christmas, your mother needed a translator to tell your child, come and eat, and the rest of them. And we are priding it as if we have arrived. And those kids are looked as special people because they cannot communicate in Igbo language. Those things started there. If the father had taught the requisite values to the child, he wouldn't have not been saying hi priest or hi this person or hi this person. He would know the difference between casual greeting and greeting somebody who come into the house. Then Igwebike in Italy. Igwebike in Italy is truncated by the inability of they are not even settled among themselves. So it is possible at home, it is possible in other places because people have little comfort. 2 men or 3 adult men living in one room cannot found Igwebike because it is difficult for them to cooperate among themselves. So if they are enemies in the house, they cannot be friends outside. So the circumstances make it imperative on them that it is even impossible for them to be friendly. So coming together, they look themselves as rivals because at home, those at home measure us who are outside on how much we bring home. And if you go home, your brother will call you from home. This person came home with this, and you're only doing this. So it becomes a problem for us and for them to come together as a one unit. Then the question from Nancy, he said, what have I done for those policies in Igbo communities? Yes, my experience with them, I have been fortunate since I came here, apart from being a member of his one day years ago. Now, where I stay in Prato, we have a Nigerian community there. As of now, the chaplain is home and I'm handling that community just for a brief period until chaplain comes back. The problem is that it's not as if I will not tell you what I'm doing, but I'm promoting the Igbo culture. I'm promoting the Igbo family relationship here. Then Professor Sogolo talks about fluidity of culture. I agree with that. It's not limited to Italy, but the uniqueness of the one in Italy is in Canada, in
Sorry, unmute yourself. I muted everyone. Can you kindly unmute yourself so that we can hear you? Okay, can you hear me now? Yes. So, sorry, I was at Nancy asked a question about host community. Sorry, I already talked about. Sogolo was talking about fluidity of culture. Well, it is not, the fluidity of, is not limited to Italy, but there are places it is more. Places where evaluating the morality is difficult because of the way of life of the people. At home, we still know that certain things are not good. Here, they use some terms that I went to take bath. That I went to take bath is that the person has gone to prison. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, and the rest. And those people in the prison are those people at home are preparing for their beautiful marriage ceremonies and the rest of them, not knowing that they are pulling their heads on the prison. Then, Kwanishe, if I'm correct, Professor Kwanishe, right? Hello? Hello?
Yes, you are right. Just fire on, Father.
Okay, sorry. So he talks about a comprehensive study with data. Yeah, he talks about with data. I think I have some of them, and I even showed, especially the intolerance one. I showed some of the data and the rest. I promise you the data will come when I will bring the final paper. Then mutual dependence asked by my brother, Father Faustinus. Well, there are some people whose names, once people hear it, they enjoy it more. I think Igbos are in that group, where whatever is about the Igbos, especially negative, it is being blown out of proportion. I'm sure if you go to other places in Nigeria, we have terrible Yahoo boys who are even more dangerous than those in Igbos. Now, when they say Igbos love money so much, I laugh. The corruption going on in Nigeria, I'm sure if every ethnicity should come and pile up what they have stolen from Nigeria, I'm sure Igbo may not take the 4th or 5th position. So if we are saying Igbos love money so much, that Republican lifestyle of the Igbos confuses a lot of people. That they are always in search for money. There's nobody, no human being that is not in search of money. The danger is what you do to get that money. Another thing is that the Igbos like to see the outcome of the money they have made, which some people in Nigeria, we have some ethnic groups that may be living in the father's house, but has squandered billions and billions of naira, but is not doing anything with it. But the Igbo man, if he gets 5,000 naira, he goes for a project of 10,000 naira and we borrow another 5,000 to complete it because he wants to stamp his feet at his feet and the sand of time. So this might be construed, that is not to say I'm exonerating them. Everybody loves money. Even myself, I love it, and I'm sure none of you hates it. So number 2, the issue of challenges of mutual dependence. It is true, because I think every other person cares for their people, but the Igbos like to care extraordinarily. Some of these people, I tell you, that they go about begging here, have people at home they pay salaries just for being their brothers and their sisters. So these people at home that they are paying salaries are healthy. Most of them are working, most of them are married. But just to prove to them I'm in Obodo Igbo and I can help you, they go into that extra mile. So the mutual dependence has also helped, because so many of us were not trained by our parents. Friends, relations helped us to be what we are today. So the mutual dependence is well, but it can be moderated, because sometimes it can be blown out of proportion to the point that some people can even rob, some people can even go and become prostitutes just to send money home. If that person I'm sending money to cannot go and rob because he's afraid, why must it be me or myself that will go and rob just to please another person? So this is the caution we shall talk about. Then the organizer talks about emphasis on money, about the Igbos. I think I have responded to that question. Nobody doesn't like money, but the attitude to money. They say that a gentleman is not that he doesn't do what the others do, but he does it at times in a polite way. So I think what the caution I will give to my brothers, the Igbos, is that so long as everybody is interested in money, we should remember a good name is better than money. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and God bless you.
Thank you. I can see maybe Professor Hadera wants to say something. Sir, 1 minute, sir, so that we can run.
I'll be less than 1 minute. I will be less than 1 minute. I think, Reverend Father, you seem to have missed the point of our argument, that we are looking at migration, the consequences of migration, and how migrants handle migration wherever they go. And that is why I gave example of Chinatown, where the Chinese live and they maintain a cohesive identity. All this business of whether Igbos love money or not, whether Igbos are doing this or that, is not the issue. The issue is we have people who have migrated from Nigeria with a specific set of values. They have translocated themselves to another country. What we want to know is, how do they maintain those values amidst an alien environment? That is the main issue. That is why we're here, to understand migration and its consequences and its outcomes. Whether the Igbos are the Jews of Nigeria, whether they love money, whether they hate money, whether they own Lekki Peninsula, that's irrelevant. What is relevant is we have somebody from Ebonyi, from Anambra, who decided he's tired of Nigeria and he goes up somewhere else. And yet what you are saying is that when these people go there and they come back alienated. They are alienated. So what's the point of migration? So it means that migration enables you to lose your values, because you go into a place where you cannot practice those values. So that is the point that I think you probably need to look at. How are those values maintained, and how are those values really become cohesive once you leave your motherland? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very strong recommendation, because I think that will make Father's paper better when he looks at it from that point. So thank you very much. And just a last word from the priest, very last word, and we call it a day, because we spent a lot of time here. Last word.
So thank you very much, the coordinator and every other person who have joined in every place. Thank you also, Prof, for the beautiful insight you have given. Here, the Chinese, the other ethnicity, other races that are here, they have more open welcome. From the chart I presented, you will see that they were welcomed better than us. So because they are welcome, it is possible they can, because they have the money, they can buy their house. Because for you to have a quarter means you can buy the houses in the quarter, which is difficult for somebody who is coming from Nigeria, is wretched, he has nothing. So he can't think of a quarter, he can't think of coming together. Rather, he will perch in some buildings with some people, and once he gets his freedom, he leaves the place. So thank you very much, everybody, and God bless you all.
Thank you, everyone. I am very impressed by the attendance today. We had over 50, by 54. So we are very happy that many people turned up, and by His grace, in 2 weeks' time, another exciting presentation from one of our own in NOUN is going to present, and from Diaspora. So I won't mention the name yet until the invitation comes out. So let us all make it a day, 2 weeks from today, by God's grace. Thank you very much, Reverend Father. Thank you, one. Thank you all. Have a blessed day. Thank you.